Should I start? We are on the right time, so let's. Sanje Jodon Zoji Shunam La Janjo Padon Dani Japsoje La Yejin Songebe Sonam Ye Jona Benje Sanje Sanje Shunam Zoji Shunam La Janjo Padon Dani Japsoje La Yejin Songebe Sonam Ye Jona Benje Sanje Sanje Jodon Zoji Shunam La Janjo Padon Dani Japsoje La Yejin Songebe Sonam Ye Jona Benje Sanje Tony Jason Bojo and Jason, then Drogon Shan of them, then Jason, so one to the I'm just a one of the makers on Toronto Vision, Xavier, Tavi and Zaba in sensation and on Okay, in English, in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and so on, may I attain Buddhahood for all the sentient beings. So now we are on the verse number 15. So now here, the example for when we feel like the patience takes so much energy and it is not easy for us, and we have so many excuses which we always give up practicing on patience. Now Shantideva here is giving us an example, saying that it is for sure for a beginner like us, there could be some difficulties on the path when we are practicing, but slowly we can become familiar with the patience, and he is giving us the example below here, and he's very kind, saying that we should start from not from the highest, but we should start from the lower, something that we can bring our patience. If I could say that in English, in Tibetan, 제가 디 ranzo 아니 동엘이야 아니 야망보 주변에 소수 녀리야 미지기 냠용 알아라 아니 동해 가시 직 가서 그래 깔래도 잡지 양코 지기 깔래 도대 이내 고 캡상지기 된다라 아니 깔래레데 이나야 깔래디 겹린 조셔야지 디 어디 숨고 있어래 내가 중간에 완전다 삼을 코도 보시고 배낭도 총 친구시 때문에 있나 고님 님의 공라 칼라에 살로 두저 말아봐 능민염도 두저 당야 말아봐 이내 코랑게 석세스 직 통도 땀 직 달러 밀리언 빌리언 기계제 시험도 니디 그처럼 고야 말아봐다 아 도스셔도 콜라야 셈나로라야 까니지 요르스나 요르 이내 코랑 까니에 대다 계산이 된다라 계산만 삼바당 요르 세상은 너버 중국 공송아 디직된 나마 어디 직년을 지나 송다
First of all, there are many, there's a whole variety of different kinds of suffering of different levels and types. And one of the ways to think about what Shantideva is doing is encouraging us to look at things which are, closest to us, the kind of sufferings that we, first of all, in terms of our training, and the closest ones to us in this life. And, there are things which cause us suffering and, provide us with difficulties. But there may be ways in which we can, view that suffering as having a sort of on one side of it. Although it's suffering, and yes, if you ask someone, is it suffering? Is it difficult? They will say yes. But that actually, if you look at it from another side, there also some kind of benefit or advantage can also be gained from it, and we can see this in our daily experience. So, for instance, if you were taking an example of doing, say, business, and if at a particular time there was an opportunity to engage in a very productive business, which would bring us a great success, then even if we had to skip our meals, or there were other difficulties associated with engaging in that business practice, then you might make a huge benefit, millions of dollars or something later on. Then if you ask that person, well, was it complicated for you or difficult for you to perform that business? And they will say yes, but what they've done is focused on the side of the benefits which have accrued, even though it was difficult. If you focus from the from the side of the advantage that's gained from that difficulty, then you can see it in a different light. So this is an important factor here.
So now take this as for example of our own kind of experience that we somehow we have experienced it in not making billions of dollars, but somehow we to gain a name and to bring a little success in your own way. So we have done so many things, right? But then we always say that we focus on the benefit. So here, and then we become very familiarized with this. And then one day they could be saying that before it was a big problem, starting was a big problem, now I'm used to it. And now Shantideva here on the verse number 15, Drudang Shadang Tadani, Jegom Lasso Sorwayang, Sorwadang, Yamba Lasso Jebai, Tumi Dungi Jimatong. Now in English, Kelsey La 15.
Who has not seen this to be so, with trifling sufferings, such as the bites of snakes and insects, feelings of hunger and thirst, and with such minor things as rashes?
So like this in here about bringing patience to the insect bites, and then also what do we call it, thirst, and then the other unpleasant feelings that we have to bear to gain some purpose. Like some people go out in the woods as an adventure. Is that right word?
Adventurer.
Adventure. And then even biting from snake is a little bit big, so like mosquitoes and then leeches, and so those are like we somehow we bear this kind of suffering. And then even when I was very young in the monastery, when there's like some events going on, they will they will show something new and some Tibetan culture movies, culture-related movies on the projector. So when I was very young, so I would love to go with the other monks, and then we watch it, and that in Mongot in the South India, there's lots and lots of mosquitoes, so they will bite you from every sides. And then even that time I have a shaved head, so they will bite on our heads. So but it is really funny because I never feel like I'm not going to watch the show because there are lots of mosquitoes. I have never said that, because my focus is completely on the pleasant feeling of the show itself. So here Shantideva is reminding me, but you all have a different kind of experiences. So before, very funny because some great yogis in the mountain, they love to stay in the mountain. They're so used to it, so they never want to come out from the cave. But for us, we cannot stay for not like a lockdown situation. We can't stay locked in for a week or two. But actually Milarepa got locked down for kind of rest of his lives in the caves, very solitarily. The realization he had, and then gained so much knowledge from that. So yes, we cannot debate with Shantideva here, because this is really true. This is really true, right? To me, Tireshata, Yambala to me, now then the number 16, verse number 16. Now the object pena kondrosa segi yudelya kansa chibo mayimba, right? Ajo tanda dela karasiwis kondros sabe kabla seba chesi ki yujorba yudela kansa chibo mayimba ani neba kandijimbi di yagodowa ajo seba komsedi yijimichi michi chu duja laba da shubes sunrubjil gudini sunrubjiredowa 이나야 아주 대 서버세야데 단도 동에 당행교 서버스 다디 레준들 이지 니베 서버들에도 와
레기되게 이지 게기는
로 이지 니베 서버
So this is so usually we so here we're going to talk about here we're talking about the different objects of potential objects of anger, and therefore also the potential objects of our developing our patience practice. And usually we think of we think of these objects of patience practice as being a person, and particularly a person who's particularly unpleasant or aggressive, or and so we think of them we're sort of sat there almost waiting for this kind of person to come along in order to practice our patience. But here we're talking about the patience of willingly undertaking hardship. And so actually this is also because of the guletigi guletila nebi
렌델 이지 니베 토네 아니 동이 당도 렌 서버고매야 돼.
So this is the practice of patience, of undertaking hardship in relation to developing trusting faith in the karmic law of cause and effect.
다 그런 표현 난 송샤네야고 요소리. Maybe I can try it in English. Maybe 차장 number 16 차장 차당 롱소당 내다 칭당 대소라 다기 세르미치데 대다치는 여바페 So here, it is a really good tip for people who are so sensitive. Okay, that includes me. I don't know the rest of you, but it really includes me, because sometimes I can be very sensitive. So that sometimes we say that's my weakness. Okay, that's the excuse that we have. So for that reason, it says, oh, Katsula, you have to read the number 16 for us.
I should not be impatient with heat and cold, wind and rain, sickness, bondage, and beatings. For if I am the harm they cause me will increase.
So the key word, I think, for this is for if I am the harm they cause me will increase. That's the key, the main key word here. If you can maybe translate that in our own language, then it could be more like, I will not easily complain about my sufferings, because then I will become more impatient in future. That's how I think it will be very way to understand that verse. Now, 디디슬란 양면로사면 제단가 제대 너버 충을 때들 너버 하고 해워 두디 서버 충 다 서버 충을 차 그래서지 서버 충을 세디 서버 충이 양고 주고 요레스 고주야 돼 아주 람상 미지기 쉬나 안가 롱탁 슬랑해디 아주 까투예요 말했어 아주 단다티 고미요 말봐 세장anga ran zola tanda to jigi ya disunguyo mare pena sugu tulo tap könje sugu chabe kala ya tulo ma kön disunguyo marwa di sögore sunguyo mare ta tanda sögore sonyaji penanga ran 저기 jigi 탑시에 매be 있나 탑시에 세 그봐 탑시에 차상 세네 아니 가지고 차진 좀 맞게 까블라 아니 아주 sö고 그랬어 탑시 여나 고 탑시 제고 봐 다 제장가 디기 던다디 가르친 것도 소나 년디 주게 년디 주
Yes. So in terms of here we're talking about where sort of where our patience is a little bit thin, and we for instance in a situation, let's say we take a situation where someone attacks us in some way, and in the immediacy of that event, it's very difficult for us to prevent ourselves from reacting to that. For instance, so another situation like where we're wearing very thin clothes and the weather's getting cold. I mean, we're not talking about here about these kind of situations. Well, what you could do is actually just put on another layer of clothes if you have them. What we're talking about here is the situations where all of the possibilities or the chances to overcome to overcome or prevent the situation have been exhausted. So there's no further methods or no further methods through which we could sort of affect the situation. And therefore, at this point, this is where we have to bring in the methods of if there's something to do, then implement that method and get on and implement the method. But what we're talking about here is the situation where we've run out of methods, and therefore we have to be able to practice patience at that point.
디카돌이야 단다 투딘 취지 탁배기 단다 준주부터 나볼라 아니 단다 never 펠세디 이제 하고 싶은 시죠. 제가 never 펠세디 콘주께 고급 접수로지. 네 말을 용거야 가르지. ngala 가르치는 연구를 했어요. 콘 정신이 semmoji chayaji. 이 마데와 chayaji. 그러니까 미샴발이야 대도 ngala 가르치는 디마 총리. 그 미샴발 치에서 ngala 가르치는 야고 치예요 말이지. 금전디. 제장가 네 디디스트다 다가들도와 네비 주 콘주페비 견예 제 셰바장 다오 세치. 다디 즉디 또 스티야고쇼도. 제지단에 네버디 레벨나 디 공부레스 이제 송아마인바. 네버 펜나 네버 망보지요. 네버디 쪼 가르 네버스나 한 세미나로 무슨 뭐지 붙여줘야지.
Yeah.
그러봐. 어디르셔. 다디 투니치가 자고 야고시다 송서. 어디 투리냐 지낭스.
So in Thupten Chögyal Dragpa's commentary, he's a very he mentions a very, when we talked about in the verse about how harm will increase, he has a very interesting way of explaining what we mean by harm increase. 344 read shocked on the
Yeah, 344.
Yeah, 344. Yeah, so he has a very interesting. So what he's talking very specifically about the opportunities for the harm which is caused by the increase in our anger. So he uses the phrase nubapel. So the increase in harm is actually if we are intolerant, if we sort of become intolerant, then the cause of harm, which is the cause of harm, which is the that there will be the fault of the if we become intolerant, there will be the fault of the increase in harm, which is the fault of the increase in anger and the opportunity for anger. So it's actually it's actually the making the mind unhappy, creating an unhappiness in the mind from the intolerance, which is the thing that is actually what the harm. And people sort of come up with all kinds of reasons why they should be why they can be intolerant. And like this person gave to him but didn't give to me, they harmed me but didn't harm them. And so you can come up with all these reasons why, or all kinds of harms that have been committed to oneself, why we could be intolerant. But the greatest, what it is actually so the fault is actually the thing which the cause of the harm is the increase in anger, which is the fault from our own side.
어떻지? 다음에 then about the verse number 17 다 겁나 쇠배 떡기에 빼스 if we become try to be familiar with the patients, and it top gears and
it'll be increased in strength.
Increase the strength.
Yeah, our patience will increase in strength. Yeah.
Or the increase in the strength. That for that example, lala dagi chatona, baden lakbari yegurye, la shenji chatona, bojin gewari duwan yu sa. Did you notice it? 17 Kelsey.
Some, when they see their own blood, become especially brave and steady, but some, when they see the blood of others, faint and fall unconscious.
So, do you agree with this? So, when you see, I have seen. When I see the blood, I don't get faint. So maybe I can say I'm like more, what do we call it, brave? In samsaric way, brave. Yeah, but some of my friends, when they saw when I cut myself, and then they see blood, or just a very small amount of blood coming out of my finger, they get fainted. So I don't know. Do you think it's due to the brave and steady to rest? Steady.
Oh yeah.
You,
Brave and steady.
So
Yeah.
do you believe that? Maybe
it feels like it's connected with the feeling of self. I was trying to reflect on it yesterday, and it feels the first part is like, well, you feel attacked, you feel like you're vulnerable, and the other part is more about the vulnerability of others. I was confused about this stanza yesterday.
Okay, yeah. So what is your thought on that? What is your experience, and what is your friend's experience? When you see blood, what do you feel? Fear?
Well, it feels like it's connected to fear and suffering, obviously, but in the sense, some people will, if they feel in danger or the sense of self is increased, well, they're like, I'm ready, the self is ready. But then I get confused because I think I understand it wrong. Because the second part,
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
they fall unconscious because they think it might happen to them, or because they have compassion for the others.
No, it's nothing. It's not saying about being compassionate or something. This is more like the worldly way of saying, right? So, eye for eye. That's what we are saying, right? If you can see the blood, how can you say eye for eye and eye? So here, let's forget about the eye for eye. Now here, we have to totally give up on this situation. Anyway, but somehow we have to feel, because even in the one family, same blood, same kind of I don't know, gene. Can we say same gene, like a brothers, sisters, same gene, right?
Yeah.
And DNA, but their brevity on this, the way of Shantideva is explaining, are totally different, right? And then also some people, one twins brother, one can love, or brother or sister loves to kill, one hates to kill and harm others. So it's more talking about the habit or kumshi, the familiarize towards their own kind of
Yes, what they're habitually familiar with, and on the strength of that, it decides. This is decided like that on the strength of their habituation.
The verse number 18 will give more clarity about the verse number 17. So, teni semking ang dentang tarmir chuli gyurbayin tewe neba kye sejing dungye namgi mizu che. 18, please.
These reactions come from the mind, but either steady or timid. Therefore, I shall disregard harms caused to me and not be affected by suffering.
또 최상가 로기 균기 콤파티 게 시고 유서와 디가도라. 제잔디 간주 자스무리샤.
Logi.
균주어 봐. 심기 균주어 봐. 곰시 세디 또 셈기 균일 때는 샤고요 봐. 제장가 셈기 균디 수구도 마선에 당아도 찍버도 차고요 봐. 파만 찍리 계획이 보고도서 시다지 샤다 차단도 상말로 고다 찍는 때는 충분히 시고요래 이나야 진나로래야 아니 건조기다 지금 로고 치중 디버치에라 로고 첨부요 가시 개와 제발 로고 첨부요 저장가 뒤 고문라 용야디 조디 다 아주 남전나로 송분의 신 아니 류기 제벌이 브레인기 제벌이 슬라비나 아니 고랑기 주창말로 중앙 토네 아주 중앙 하람 아주 찍버찌jan로 차디요래데 이나양 아니 딜 개발 첨부 통도 와서 남전 리버도 다지래도 와 아주 시에나 가르셔야 하우스나 다 곰시 시고 그랬어 곰세디 다 곰세디 균디 차사데 다 셈을만도 시에서요 말했어 내가마요 니네 치마른 돈인데 아주 셈기 문진들 봐 어제선가 디나로라 다가라 따단다 디니 셈기 낭덴당 세디 낭덴당 아니 다르메 출리 줄바인 시도야 수구기 타디야 야고도가 수구이 내당 토네 시조를 했지 니 카가시에 먹었지 어디
알리 주포를 카카시에 먹고
어디 다르메 출리 줄바인 어디 셈기 낭덴당 다르메 출리 줄바인
다메스스네 고 셈기 곰시양
다르마세도 수구 로춘춘
Okay. So this is so this is an example about the example that we've got here, and if you and what we're talking about is the cultivated habits of familiarity with different people. So, for instance, if people were born into the same family, then they would be born from the same from very similar kind of DNA, and they may even look similar physically or not, but within a particular family you get different kinds of habits and familiarities. Some are very sort of drawn towards practicing virtue, and some of them are drawn towards practicing negativity. So there's no, so even though they may be physically quite close or quite similar, with similar kind of DNA, similar kind of physical makeup, but their habits may be, their immediate habits may be very different. So in Dharmakati's Pramanavartika, there's actually an argument which is in the section on about past and future lives, which talks about an argument about how if the kind of mental habits were just caused by, if the mind was caused by the brain and the physical elements of the brain, then since in the person's, essentially in a person's development, the essential elements of the development of the brain and the stages would be pretty much the same for most people physically, then we should all end up with a similar kind of way of thinking. But we don't see that. We see a big difference in the different ways that people think, and this is due to familiarization and habit. And when we talk about familiarization or habit, we're talking about something based on the continuum of the mind, and the mind which goes from a past into a future. And familiarity or habits are based in the realm of the mind. So in the first two lines of so there are two, it says in the first two lines of 18, it says, thus the reactions come from the mind being either steady or timid. But Rinpoche also said to me that the mind being steady, because Dharma Korang and Dharma Tsu Slapna, ko Zupugi, the Zupugan Keja top chumwa darky Keja.
Odi, to Lodi, that lotion be Kablatosco, the Yorba. That's Arched. Then your lawyer, Yalitua, Yamana Shinko, active Tigmar was Sugudi.
Yeah. So Rinpoche, she says that that's also so that in terms of mentally, in terms of comes being steady or that kind of thing, or timid. So So also you can relate this to being sort of steady or not. Or so, for instance, you could be very weak when you're younger and then develop much more strength or courage as you get older. So these are all things which are related to the mind and the habits of the mind.
The conclusion is Kebe Dungye Direta, Tewe never Chessin, Dungye Namji Mitsuchu, Kebe Dungye Jungyani, Sim Di Rabda Nyomicha, Nyomonamda Yujela, Yujesena never monks. Kelsila already read the 18th, and right?
Yes.
Have you read that? Okay.
Yes, I
Can
read
you
that
read the
one.
19th, please?
Sure. Even when the wise are suffering, their minds remain very lucid and undefiled. For when war is being waged against the disturbing conceptions, much harm is caused at the time of battle.
So now take this the example of the worldly example. So feel that once we put a little effort towards patience, and then seeing not only the to improve patience, but seeing the benefit of having patience will bring peace of mind to yourself, and it will not increase the hatred or anger in but the person who is harming you. So it's a benefit for both of yourself and others. And then mostly then the question will arise for the practitioner who is practicing for the patient is how many times how many times I have to be patient. Even I try to be patient for 1, 2, 3 times, and then enough is enough. So this comes up. So you are feeling like if you don't do something that then kind of the world is ending. So for that reason, we have to feel like I think it is a very important prayer whenever when we're doing practice of generosity, and then ethical conduct, and then also the patience, so on. 단당 알아서 몰람 들리지 여러분. 니 드링디 제발 때네 아니 서버 용수 줘버 주지 세치다.随便 누가 용수 줘봐.
So when from the actions, the positive actions that I performed today, may my practices such as patience be absolutely and perfect and complete. So you make that prayer.
Yeah. So when is our practice complete? When is the time of the generosity practice of generosity is complete? Now this is a big question. It doesn't mean that there is no more hungry dogs in McGregorganj. That's not the purpose of completing the generosity. The completing generosity is from within yourself, right? So once you give things to others, there is no obstacle at all. Okay, and then no more kind of like 그래서 그랬다. 지기 아주 무슨 서버 그래서 디 짐바 땅차나 그냥 겨버지 해줘 봐.
There's no
regret.
sort of regret or a sense of regret once you've given something to somebody. You don't later have regret about it.
And then also no misery 왜.
Miserliness.
Miserliness. Yeah. On top of that, on the top of that, the chazanga majugi penata tanda diga swabati yore swaba gombe kabya kugi nöba tu kasus chebe inaya. Right? That's nöba kasus chebe inaya. Any digi sem motu bachedi. Right? Sem motu bachin de tuyedi. 당한저 쇠백이 남는 쪼들에도 와.
The main practice, the main part of the practice of, let's say, so for instance, we're taking here, before we talked about, giving, here we're talking about patience. So the main thing when we're kind of meditating or cultivating on cultivating patience is, about however much harm is done to us, we won't let those circumstances upset or disturb our minds, and that's the main core of patience.
So it doesn't mean that we should take all the disadvantages that people are giving us.
Yeah, it's not about taking all because
defeat.
Defeat. It's not about taking all the defeats that people give to us. It's not about that.
So we should really keep this in our mind. So it's not that if somebody is shouting at you, and then if you don't say something back or something harsh word towards him, it doesn't mean that if you don't say anything bad to him, we have to keep this in our mind that if we keep quiet, it doesn't mean that we are taking the defeat, right?
Yeah, it doesn't mean we're accepting defeat in the situation because we don't respond.
Yeah. Then tanda dikadu delia dindi chungwa kebe dunge chungwani kebase tadi agoresha we are practicing we are learning the way of Buddhisattva's way of life. For that reason, here Shantideva is saying kebe. The kebe is 19 how
wise. The wise. It's translated.
The wise are suffering. Then the wise are suffering. So now, if you go and to the shop, and then people start to take advantage because of you are a yellowhead, not yellowhead like yellow, but yellow hair, blonde. So you don't need to take a defeat. You don't need to say harsh words, but you don't need to take a defeat. And then you have to feel, I'm a wise person. And I like the English version of saying, because I'm a wise person, I'm not letting my cool, I'm not, don't let your cool.
Don't lose your cool. Don't lose your cool.
Oh, yeah. Don't lose your cool. Yeah, I like that. So this you should put on your people like to put so many quotes. So maybe you can put that, don't let your cool lose your cool.
Don't lose your.
And that doesn't mean that you have a very good hairstyle or something. It's more like your focus is the mind, the coolness of the mind who you really represent. So that's the Shantideva is giving. I'm not saying you should do that. That's Shantideva is giving us a hint. Kebe dungye chungwani semgi rabdo nyongmecha. So the wise person does not block his own path. Dus lamna digmiro. 19.
Yeah.
Harm he is caused the time. Okay. Then now verse number 20. And then at the time of when we are having the patience, and then we have to feel like think about all the benefits. That is very important. So here Shantideva is reminding us 동해 탐지 체세는 제단라서 다좀바 대다 계제 보우데 하마 롤 세바오스. Verse number 20, please.
The victorious warriors are those who, having disregarded all suffering, vanquish the foes of hatred and so forth. Common warriors slay only corpses.
So when their war started, then warriors had to move forward, no retreat. You have to go forward. And then once you kill the enemy in the battle, and then you get promotion or you get like this I don't know, sorry, heroic medal.
Yeah, like a medal or
medal or something, right? So Shantideva here is saying that I think we can say those people who kill people and then enemy, those who kill the people in the battle and won the battle, those are same people like they kill the crops, right? Crops are corpse. It's a very difficult to. There are two similar things, right?
Yes,
crops and corpse. It's a tongue twister English mantra. Okay. So Shantideva here, it's if you read the commentary, it's saying that the people who are the common warriors, they go in the battle and they kill somebody, and then they feel like I am the hero or something, and they are hero of killing, not killing the enemy. They have just done it. Maybe Simon better to translate for me. 제가 만족이 심 오늘잖아 안으로 내버려야지 심기레스 다 두신다 내버려야지 안으로 심기 원기 안으로 내버려야지 이나야 다디 파친지 가르세버스나 수구세샤브레 셈세도요 말이스
거기 슈퍼세
수구디 코 세브레 가르세브 수구디스디 우까브레스다
그래요.
파친 우디까샤브레스
야
이나양 당동 가르까요 말스디 셈기 파종으로 춘뇌 깨고세 셈베죠 봐.
야
This say to your maris. This yamato tembe ani chazanga rosevna hiremato mise your maris.
로세야마토 yeah.
Roseva chimremato mise to your maris.
그래요.
Okay.
미세 메토 because of course sem parabugi sem nubache
Oh, 다 미세 세디 조디 가르는 코란 매버 선도 가르쳐서 코응알 느끼기도스.
Yeah.
느끼도 그 수구 느끼기요 말에. 그 느끼도 그 셈도 땅땅기 왕기 안줄 느끼기요. 당한주 라드 머미도 파치니 가르세가 돌았잖아. 아니고 로디 우 풍부 우 로야디 매버스샤브레스.
Yeah.
딜라 아니 콘조 파우르스 라브레스.
Yeah.
딜라 샨디데와 파우르 송구메스.
Yeah. So you know, Shantideva is saying to us that our definition of the hero is completely wrong. When ordinary people go into war, then they think of the enemy as the kind of other person's body, or a kind of physical, the people's body, and sort of when they go into war against the enemy is breathing, and then by killing the enemy, then they stop the breathing, and we say that the enemy is being killed. But the real enemy is when we talk about harm is a mental thing. It's a thing based in the mind. It's the harmful intent within the mind. So when they go into war, they've killed what they think is they're called a hero because they kill the physical body of the enemy. But still, what's left out, you can't actually stop the mental harmful intent. So they actually say you've killed the corpse, but you haven't killed the person, is a phrase that's used. And so, you haven't mi parabugi nube semligi gatogumindu dikejereya. Mi parabugi kogi supula gatore. Parabugi nube semligi gato.
어디래? 그 수구디 우교에 땅에디 가샤브레스. 다디디 가르쳐나 로세버디 시버레스 오래.
Yeah. So all you've done is you haven't killed you've killed the corpse, which is the taking away of the breath from the body of the enemy, but you haven't killed the enemy, which is the harmful intent within the mind. So we say you haven't killed the mi mase roseva mi mase so yeah. Yes.
So maybe Simon might have the translation. Which is translation you have in English? I mean.
No, I don't, but I can translate it as we go.
If somebody has the translation, then maybe double check with that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you check? Which is
Gyaltsab says that it's you haven't killed the enemy, you haven't defeated the enemy, which is the hatred, the mind, the afflictive emotions such as hatred in the mind. But he doesn't say whether it's the enemy's hatred in the mind or our own hatred in our own mind.
Oh yeah.
So he doesn't differentiate.
Gyaltsab Rinpoche's commentary in there, it says Shedan la soba nyomobe da jomba nyomoba tedale yever chebala pause. This one.
So actually, if you want what you want to call a real hero, in Gyaltsab's commentary, it says the real hero is the one who is victorious over the afflictions, the mental afflictions, such as hatred and the afflictive and overcoming the enemy of the afflictive emotions such as anger. That's what we call a hero.
Did you so want that pen samlatangdanti tanda nyomo big yuli give tanga zobason mingle kaurwa ta mingle kaurwa chechanga depshetanda Shantideva 가르송 제스 좀 쉬어라 가르송도 쓰나 아니 다 평양 당보디 아주 포커스지 가르려고 요스나 오늘 전에 예 드림 보고 내가 체비스 세버 공백값이야 니 보고 니 녀몽 온도 줄마 주고 말에 녀몽 콜라 다 줘야지 니 녀몽 들으셔 콜라 다치니디 니 녀몽 들으셔 니 녀몽 온도 줄마 주고 제 가윈도 참 아빠우인스 직대 레송아 디인도 잠베 다디 아니 납다 오늘 전에 드린 내가 랍신이 시에서 쓰디 we have to dig 아주 양내 양도 알아는 소리야 아니다 뽑아세티
Yeah.
뽑아 디고 is 다디 benefit 당부상 라이트
Yeah. So sugi mong jomba chela dijo.
미쳐마냐도 다르대 비까블라 아니 다르쇼 비까블라 빈지 미직 두알라 비까블 팜 레말로버치 둑 데데 비까블라 다 서베 평양 가려요 카좀 데데비나 평양 가려요랬을디 평양면 말 평양요 드링이 녀몽도 줄주고 메스
Yeah.
네팔 두자 랍이 나 랍싱기유스 예능에 랍메스 삼로디던 디땅비 인장에 랍메스디 아니 랑싱의 삼로 돔데나로 드링이 오늘 전주선비기 아니 제베기 냠낸다 더부징의 제비 드링 아빠우 차송 세지 디 야고도와 즉디
Yeah, so these words from from the Jay's commentary, but obviously based in Shantideva's work, are telling us how we should think of ourselves as being how to be a hero in this context, in the context of being in the context of practicing the bodhisattva, engaging in the bodhisattva's way of life or the bodhisattva's practices, and how do we become a hero? And it's not about but Shantideva is giving us as a way to think about the benefits of how in becoming a hero in this way. What are the benefits? So, for instance, if we're in a kind of conflict, either physical or verbal conflict with someone else, and perhaps we, even though we, they say something bad to us or do something bad to us, and we know exactly how we could respond, whether physically or verbally. So we know how to do it, but we restrain ourselves from doing it. Then Shantideva is saying to us, this is a way of becoming a hero, because what you've done is you've deliberately restrained yourself from manifesting a kind of negative, a response based in the negative emotions, and instead you restrained yourself. So this is because we like to name things and sort of so if we're talking about how to be a hero in Shantideva's eyes, this is how we do it, when we are able to overcome overcome our negative emotions in relation, say, to others and their harm, and restrain ourselves. And this is how we become a hero. That's what Shantideva is saying to us here in this passage.
Yeah. So please try to practice this. It's a very simple. So did I do something heroic today? Heroic action today? If you did, then you feel like, yes, I'm a hero today. Okay? And then you can say to your friends, Dharma friends especially, don't say that to someone that who couldn't understand Shantideva's idea. You can say, I did something very heroic action. Whom you can share this to is your guru. That is the best offer to your guru. So please try to practice that, and not only on the patients, practice on the patients, but generosity, and so all these are the those heroic actions. And if we say in the Shantideva's way of Bodhisattva's life, so you can say, I did something in the way of Bodhisattva's life, I have contributed something. And those maybe heroic actions, what I just talked now, we can almost guarantee 100% it's not mixed with the attachment. Maybe 99%. 100% is too much. Okay, I take 1% off. 99%. It's so pure. So please try to think that. And then next Wednesday, we will talk about the other benefits. Okay. Thank you very much. And dedication. Chamba Chimbala is here. Yeah, Chamba Chimbala. I think we can do that in English today.
Sure.
Okay.
So in the center of
Say a
Serkong,
little bit.
WhatsApp
Yeah,
group.
slowly.
Sure. So the first prayer, having thoroughly investigated in accord with all that I have heard day and night through the four reasonings, mind born of reflection on these topics of contemplation, may this discernment sever all doubts. And for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, in the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. In all my lives, never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. By completing the qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. I fully dedicate all these virtues to be able to train just like the hero Manjushri who knows reality, and just like Samantabhadra as well. I fully dedicate all my roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by all the gone beyond victorious ones of the 3 times in order to have good conduct. With my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid.
Chanju Simjo Rinpoche, Maje Panam Yejoji, Kyawa Nyamba Mebai, Kone Kondo Pevar Show. Okay. Thank you very much. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Okay. Be hero. Hero number 1.
Thank you so much, Rinpoche.
Okay.